I'm just having so much fun with it. And I think to me, this is what I wanted to do. I just wanted to kind of just have fun with it, record the process, and put it out there for people to see, and people resonate with it. It's like you grow a following, and it's weird. Still, I kind of get the imposter syndrome sometimes, where like you put a piece of content out there and you're like, is anybody going to watch this? Or who am I? Like, why does anybody care? But, you do it for the people that, might see that video and then change their opinion on something or try something new.
How did a chef who was on the TV show Chopped end up opening a coffee roastery before becoming an emerging voice in both the bourbon and tequila scenes online? Let's find out right here on The Spirit Guides. Wayne Caffarella is Drink with Wayne on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. He's the co-owner and head of coffee at King's Coast Coffee in Long Island and is now blowing up with his short-form content about all things bourbon and agave, with some home bartending tips mixed in here and there. What's next for Wayne, and how has his life changed since he started on this journey as a spirits content creator? We'll find out on this episode of The Spirit Guides, the show about the entrepreneurial journeys of the world's top booze influencers. I am your host, Tequila Jay Baer. Now, fans of this show are known as the Sippers, and all you Sippers know that every episode of the show can be found at thespiritguides.info, and the videos are always at thespiritguides.video. Show is, as always, sponsored by our pals at Love Scotch, the premier online shop for scotches, bourbons, tequilas, and a lot more. An extensive collection curated from around the globe. They bring the world's finest distilleries right to your front door. So whether you're a seasoned enthusiast like Wayne or just starting your journey, they've got something for you. And check this out. Shipping is always $19.95. So it doesn't matter if you buy one bottle, it's $19.95. You buy 20 bottles, it's also $19.95. So stock up. Doesn't apply to Hawaii, Alaska, Greece or whatever. But for the contiguous 48, $19.95 flat rate, go to lovescotch.com. That's lovescotch.com. And the show is produced by Content 10X. Go to content10x.com for all your content creation and production needs. Speaking of which, here's that spirit guide. Wayne Caffarella. Wayne, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for having me on.
I'm super excited to talk to you because your original life plan was Rockstar, right? That was the initial plan. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, that didn't last too long. I quickly learned there's way more talented musicians on the planet than I was. But my whole thing was playing in a band, and the sum of all parts kind of makes a really great band. But yeah, that kind of got me. I was in high school, just loved playing punk rock, and Long Island's got a big punk hardcore scene here. So like everybody was, if you're not in a band, you're always going to see shows, and that was kind of like what got me into the music industry. In high school. And then started touring around and, jumping in vans, and, parents were like, this isn't going to work. You actually have to get a job and become a real member of society.
Yeah. So you became a chef, which is also a very easy job.
Yeah. Yeah. That actually, that was kind of divine intervention, because I was able to work in restaurants, sleep all morning, work all night, party all night, and then go back to work the next day. And that was a good, transition from wannabe rock star to chef. And I felt like it was kind of just a fun, raucous environment, to be in. Working in the restaurant industry was just like, it's amazing. To the people who do it, why you love it. It's just, you get that rush, the adrenaline rush. It's loud. You get to be who you want to be. You don't really have to confine to corporate norms. So that was always fun.
You weren't just, any chef. You were a very acclaimed chef. I saw a lot of media coverage of your work across multiple restaurants in New York, and you even did a spot on Chopped. How'd that go?
That was it's so funny too, because the Chopped thing I kind of almost forgot about. I kind of forget about it, and every now and then it pops up, and somebody's like, "Were you ever on Chopped?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I was." If you Google the episode, I look nothing like I do now. That was very early stages of young Chef Wayne. thinking he was the hot thing, But that was it was basically just like an open call. I worked with the chef who was on the show and had won. And he goes, dude, just apply. He goes, if they like you, they'll call you in, and you could be on the show. So that was an interesting process. It took a long time to like the whole casting and calling, and then finally the day that you go to shoot, it's like a really, really long day. They do the whole shot, whole episode shot in a single day. And time starts, 20 minutes go. And you're just literally, I'll never forget that feeling of like, oh, what am I even doing? You can't practice. You kind of have some ideas of like what you think you might do. And then sometimes the plate just kind of comes together as you're going. But it was definitely a challenge. And I got to the entree round, and then I got chopped in the entree round.
I looked that up because I really wanted to know. You went out on ham hock carbonara. Was the dish that was not accepted. And so my question for you, Wayne, is: did you then go back and try to perfect your ham hock carbonara, or are you like, okay, that's dead to me, I'm never making it again?
I never made that dish ever again.
There you go. Took his failure with grace. I love it. You started King's Coast in 2017. And as I understand it, you sort of had an amazing cup of coffee in Syracuse, kind of figured it out, started roasting at home, like in your own kitchen, and then like pretty quickly said, I'm not going to be a chef anymore. I'm going to start a coffee business. That's quite a leap of faith.
It was a leap, very, very big leap. So friends of mine, they're in the Twitch streaming realm. They kind of like got into, this was like around 2015, streaming Destiny online or Fortnite and all that stuff. So they kind of got into this Twitch gaming, space. And so I was like, this is pretty cool, just kind of paying attention to it. I had gotten into coffee when I was living in Syracuse. We had a really good local scene where there was about 3 or 4 different coffee houses there where they're all roasting their own coffee. And to me, it was like, I tried this one cup of coffee and it kind of just changed my outlook on coffee. I always thought of it as just like, coffee comes from the coffee pot and that's it. I had this Ethiopian coffee that it literally just packed this punch of just blueberries, and it had depth, and there was so much complexity in this cup. And I'm like, why does this coffee taste so good? So I started talking to the guy, Aaron. Place is called Salt City Coffee Roasters up in Syracuse. He's still keep in touch with him. He's a really good dude. So I went down to his shop and I was like, I just got to see you roast coffee. I just want to see how it's done, see how it's made. And once I saw coffee roasting, I'm like, this is pretty cool. And he's like, oh, yeah, you can do it at home, too. He was in these little countertop roasters and stuff. And then King's Coast Coffee kind of was born in the summer of 2017. So basically, my partners with the coffee company, they're Twitch streamers. The famous line, I've heard this for so many entrepreneurs, is, hey, how hard would it be to start our own coffee company? And that's how King's Coast was born. It was kind of born out of necessity, a little bit of spite, and a little bit of just like, hey, why not? Why not us? Let's give this a shot. And this was like in 2017, and then luckily, from day one, we were an online coffee roaster. That was our whole business model. Is you go on our website, you order coffee, gets roasted up, packed up, and shipped to your door, usually within 3 to 5 business days of it being roasted.
Did your experience with sort of that community and sort of live streaming video, did that make it more comfortable or easier for you to start making your own content? Obviously not on Twitch, but in social in general?
Yeah, I think so. Because like when we started, my buddies and I, we were doing a podcast, they're calling it Worst Radio Show, where it was just literally the 4 of us would get on and talk about video games and movies and kind of just rip on each other. But I got used to talking on camera and doing, live streaming and jumping on Twitch every now and then with those guys.
You started out making online content about coffee, right? Like Instagram, etc. Like coffee was the original kind of.
Yeah, coffee was the start. So we're with it being an online business, you got to always have an online presence. And it was kind of, we started talking about it. We were just posting pictures of, coffee, and there's you got to, at some point you have to kind of put a face to a brand, and you want to have someone who can talk about your brand. And I was like, all right, I'm willing to do it. I feel comfortable enough talking about the coffee. I do all the roasting and sourcing. So any type of questions that were going to come along, like I'm the best person to answer these. So I started doing coffee content. Did it on TikTok. I started in 2021. So started posting coffee TikToks, and that kind of took off, and it was doing well. Um, but from day one, it was always like, I was the face of the company. I was on the Instagram, on the social media for the coffee company. And then it just, during COVID, it was like, I feel like everybody got into like sourdough. Um,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that for me, I didn't get into sourdough. I got into tiki cocktails. That was like my thing. Um, and my wife was laughing like, so we built out this bar space behind me in the house, and that was people would come over, and they're always like, "All right, what are we drinking?" Well, everybody would. The joke was everybody wants to come over to just have drinks with Wayne, and then so my wife was like, she's been my rock, man. Like anything, I had these crazy ideas, and she's always on board with it. She's like, "All right, it's gonna work out." Just if this is the new thing, this is what we're doing. So she's been amazing support in that. But yeah, the coffee content was where it started, and then it eventually kind of got a little bit boring talking about coffee all the time. And she was like, "Why don't you?" She's like, "Why don't you just like post cocktail recipes? And you're always buying bourbon, tequilas, and like talk about that stuff." And so I started my own channel with that, and then within the first like month, it blew up, and I was like, "Okay, I guess this is a thing now." It's fun. I love doing it. It's a passion project. It's my whole thing is like I'm not an expert in spirits at all. I'm not a bartender, but I'm really into the craft of bartending and understanding the history and learning, all these classic recipes.
Hey sippers, hope you're loving this episode of The Spirit Guides. If you are, would you please follow the show on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, or subscribe to the show on YouTube? And the most important thing you can do for the show and for me is to leave a review. It makes a big difference. Thanks so much. Back to the show.
So when you started with coffee content, and now it's mostly bourbon and tequila content, do your partners at King's Coast be like, "Hey man, how about some more of that coffee content? Because like we're trying to sell coffee, bro."
Yeah, we do mix it in. I am always like, I've always got the King's Coast hat on, and it's funny too because I've had people follow me, and they're like, "Oh, King's Coast, I love that coffee," and I'm like, "Have you ever seen our social media? Like, same face." It's funny, but yeah, my partners they understand it too because that's what they do for a living. They're streaming, and they're always doing content, and it's so funny because like I'm always like, "Can you just drop our name more?"
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a fine line between like you know talking about it organically and then just trying to force like buy my coffee. And to me, I'm like, I never want it to be that way. So like if any way I can naturally fit it in, I always do it.
When you're now starting with the success of the bourbon and the agave content, starting to monetize it a little bit, some brand partnerships, affiliate revenue, that kind of thing. Like, does that change how you think about what you want to shoot or how you shoot it?
It's funny that you brought that up too because like I was just having this conversation yesterday where the monetization with like content, right? It's like I feel like it's the natural cycle. You start doing it because you like it, you're having fun with it. Then brands reach out, they start sending you free stuff, and they're like, "This is amazing," And then all of a sudden a brand comes along and they're like, "Hey, we'd love to pay you to make a post for us," or like you're like, "Wow, I can actually make money doing this. This is our supplement the hobby." And the joke I always say, well, it's not really a joke. Like my stance on it is, every time I talk to brands, if I'm talking to them, I've already done my due diligence. I've researched the brand. It's somebody that I'm willing to put my name or my reputation on. Like I won't even talk to brands that I don't want to talk to. The way I look at it is monetization to me doesn't pay for my opinion or my viewpoint on anything. I look at it as the monetization pays to keep the lights on. It keeps, buys new bottles to put on the shelf. It's kind of just basically, my time of the day to sit there for, instead of a couple hours sitting there talking to my wife, I got to record videos while she yells at me in the background, But yeah, to me, like it's interesting, the whole monetization side of this. I'm just having so much fun with it, and I think to me, this is what I wanted to do. I just wanted to kind of just have fun with it, record the process, and put it out there for people to see, and people resonate with it. It's like you grow a following, and it's weird. Still, I kind of get the imposter syndrome sometimes, where like you put a piece of content out there and you're like, is anybody going to watch this? Or who am I? Like, why does anybody care? But, you do it for the people that, might see that video and then change their opinion on something or try something new. And then you get the DMs and they're like, hey, I just found, Cascana's tequila, or, I finally got a bottle of Fortaleza. And you're like, oh, cool, man. I'm glad you see the direct impact, and that kind of makes it
absolutely
worthwhile.
Yeah.
That to me is the big part of it.
I love the randomness of your first sort of big breakout video on TikTok over the holidays at Costco. You want to tell that story?
Yeah, so that was the first like video that I posted that actually like got pretty viral. Or at least, in my standards of like, I was like, nobody's ever going to watch this, but so this is kind of what spurred the whole, you should start your own TikTok channel. I was randomly going into Costco. It was like a couple days before Christmas. And I don't know what it is about me, but people want to talk to me. I everywhere I go, people are just like, my wife's like, it's hilarious. She's like, people just, they're naturally gravitated to you, and they want to talk to you. So I'm standing there at Costco's just opening up. There's a mob of people running through the front doors. And here in New York State, we have Costco, and then we have a liquor store next to it. It's not actually, you can't sell it inside. So this little old lady standing there in the crowd, and I locked eyes with her, and she just looks at me. She goes, do you know where the liquor store is? I was like, well, that's exactly where I'm going. So follow me. And I'm like barreling through the crowd. She's following me behind, and she's like, oh, thanks. I'm like, what are you looking for? She's like, well, I got to get a bottle of bourbon for my grandson, and I need a bottle of wine. And so here I am walking her through the Costco liquor store. I'm like, well, this is a really good, what are you having for dinner? Obviously a nice Pinot Noir would go well with that, or pairing up her wine. And then they had a Elijah Craig store pick, and I was like, all right, if we're going to get any kind of bourbon, I'm like, the stuff he wants, you're probably not going to find here. She's like, yeah, he said something about, like Blanton's. And I was like, you're not going to find it here. But I was like, this is a one-of-a-kind bottle. Like they only have it here. It came from a single barrel of bourbon. I was like, and now you have this cool story you can tell to your grandson, and, whatever. So I just got back, and I like just recorded that, like recap of that conversation in the parking lot. And then that video just popped off, and it did really well. And then, I followed that up with another, just like coming home and forgetting your wife's home, like you're hiding bottles of bourbon, and that video popped off, and I was like, all right, I guess this is the thing now. And it just kept snowballing, and it's fun.
It's going well on the content creation side, obviously. What annoys you about
it? Editing. Editing has become the bane of my existence. I feel like I can come up with ideas galore. I have like a list of rolling videos in my head of like, I got to get to this one. I got to get to this one. What I like to do, my strategy for content is I have a couple like preset videos for the week of like what I want to do. And I like to just like feedback farm and engagement loop. Like, if I get comments, I like to reply to comments. I feel like it's a big part of what's helped grow the channel is that interaction. Stitching people's videos and replying to comments with the video, and like that kind of like, sometimes you get these really good questions. You're like, I can't type this out, but I can give you a video. And then people see that and they're like, wow, this guy just replied to me with a video, like took time out of his day. It was like, that's the fun part. I could do that forever. It's always the ones you never expect. You're just like, oh, I'll just put this post up, whatever. Or my first real viral video that went over 1 million views, I didn't mean to post it.
Even better. Yeah.
And I had it queued up. It was in my drafts, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I was going to edit the caption on it, and I just fat thumbed it and sent it. I was like, oh no, it's 1:15 in the afternoon. Nobody's going to see this post because you got to post at 7 p.m., to hit the TikTok algorithm, and then literally I'm like, oh man, I was gonna delete it, and then I got a phone call, and I'm listening, I'm on the phone call, and then I hang up the phone, and I was like, oh, I gotta take this video down. I want to save this one for later. This is a good post, and I looked at it. It was like 10,000 views already. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, who knew? And then that video just exploded, and I was like, oh, okay, hit almost 2 million views on that, a video I didn't even mean to post, because I thought it would be better if I posted it at a certain time. But that's the biggest thing I tell to anybody is, like, if you have ideas, just post content. Just, you never know what the video that can make or break it will be.
There you go. So sippers, you sippers who are coffee fans, King's Coast Coffee online, it'll be roasted by the man himself. Drinks with Wayne Caffarella.
There is I do have a promo code going. It's Drink with Wayne. Is it Drink with Wayne or Drink with Wayne 20? I think it's Drink with Wayne. Should have prepared for this.
We'll put it in the show notes.
I'll make it Drink with Wayne.
There you go. It'll work by the time we publish it. Yeah. Drink with Wayne promo code, folks. Yeah. And look in the show notes for that. He is the one, the only Wayne Caffarella. Look him up on the coffee company, of course, but also TikTok and Instagram, all the places. Wayne, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Friends, don't forget, you can find every episode, including the promo code we just talked about, at thespiritguides.info. All the videos on YouTube at thespiritguides.video. Big thanks to our pals at lovescotch.com for their support. Check out their extraordinary curated collection of spirits. They'll send it right to your front door, maybe with some coffee. The show is produced by Content 10X, who we love and recommend for all digital content. I am Tequila Jay Baer, and sippers, you can make mine a double. See you next time on The Spirit Guides.